Hi, everybody.
Hello.
We are here having a conversation about prayer, and we were thinking that it probably would be good to talk about just the very basic thing of how to start a prayer life.
Yes.
Right? How do you even begin the prayer life? Because I can imagine many of you are recognizing in this time that you have more time. Circumstances have changed. Maybe you're at home or you're not going into work as frequently, and you know that you now have a little bit, or it seems that there's more time to have a prayer life. You want to pray more. Well, how do you go about doing that? So hopefully our conversation today would be able to give the basics maybe on just starting that off, some things to think about.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, my experience, I think I've told this story before. I went to seminary and I did not know how to pray. I went to Mass, obviously, when I was growing up. I prayed the rosary, and I would have times when I was talking to God, but I never thought of that as prayer. And then when I got to seminary, that we were told, you will pray for an hour a day in front of the Blessed Sacrament. That was one of the seminary rules. So I got marched into the seminary, sat down in front of the Blessed Sacrament, and it was so, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, no one taught me, no one told me anything. So mine was trial by fire, and probably some of you are experiencing that already. So here are some of the tidbits I wish someone had told me. Number one, it's really important to have time, chosen time, where you are going to pray, and a chosen place where you are going to pray, to start having that conversation with God. So a place in your home, out on a walk, favorite bench, coming to the church, maintaining social distancing, of course. And then hopefully when everything normalizes, to think of a place where you can pray. And then to have a manageable, concrete, realistic amount of time that you are going to sit in God's presence. With just those two things, a place and a time, you have already made the prayer life something that is not purely theoretical. You have made it something that is a part of your day, like any other relationship or activity that is in your day, right? You've given God the gift of your time and the gift of your attention, which is huge. Once you have those two things in place, then there is the routine of maintaining it, right? And to say, I am going to be doing this every day for this length of time, at this time. And that way, as you have the concrete time that you're going to be praying, the concrete place that you're going to be praying, this isn't even talking about how you're praying, you just have those two things, and you know you're going to be doing it every day for a period of time, then a lot of those things that make us nervous about praying are already there. I don't need to say everything to God in this 5-minute period because I'm going to talk to him again tomorrow. I don't need to do everything perfectly because I'm going to be able to start again tomorrow, right? Today might be a difficult day, but tomorrow might be better. And I'm building up a relationship, so I don't need to do everything in one period.
I've heard this. I don't run very much now, but it's a sprint. It's not a, what was the opposite of a sprint?
Marathon.
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
You're working for the long-term relationship, not having the perfect conversation that day.
Right.
Yeah.
And one thing that I noticed is just a suggestion is not everyone prays the same way. So maybe if you've never actually sat down and thought about talking to God or learning different methods of prayer, maybe you don't know how you pray. So this is a really exciting time to experiment with different ways of conversing with God. And hopefully we'll be giving you resources on how to do that.
Yeah.
But not everyone, just like there are different personalities and different ways of having conversations, so too there are different ways to have, like your personality and God, you probably will interact differently than, say, your best friend with God, or your spouse with God, or your kids with God. So it's exciting to be able to recognize that you're going to be able to learn how you speak with God in a conversational or a spiritual way. And that also means to be patient with yourself as you're trying to learn that over time. It takes time to grow a relationship, any relationship. I mean, I maybe some of you did, but I would imagine not many. If you're married, saw the person that you were going to marry, and then you got married that first moment, right? Like you saw and got married. There was like, you had to go up and talk to them, maybe ask them if they wanted to marry you, right? And maybe there was dating and conversation. So no relationship is just like that.
Right.
And so too with God.
Mm-hmm.
There's a development, there's a growth, there's a getting to know each other. And if you use your example of the marathon to switch metaphors, that's the relationship metaphor, but the exercise metaphor, no one runs a marathon. Well, I think the first guy that ran a marathon did, and then he died. But no one starts no one says, I'm going to run a marathon, who has never run before, and then just does it.
Yeah.
You have to have concrete steps along the way where you grow and develop, and you're learning. Sometimes you fail, sometimes you succeed, but there's the growth in the ability to do it. Prayer is analogous to that, right? You start somewhere, and then you grow.
Mm-hmm. And I think picking up on that exercise metaphor, a lot of us right now are trying to figure out how to exercise at home because that's a very good way to relieve stress and everything. And I think too, I joined a gym a couple of years ago, and in the beginning, going to the gym was something I had to do because I committed to doing it. And if I skipped a day, it was like, thank God I don't have to exercise today. Now, I exercise because it helps me. It makes me feel better. I do feel relieved of stress afterwards. And if I sleep in, I feel worse, and I notice that I feel worse. And I wish that wasn't the case sometimes, but it's actually a really good thing. And so for myself, I've noticed that about prayer too. Initially, it was something that I felt I had to do, especially working for the church. I was like, if I'm talking about prayer, I probably should pray. But there were times when I would skip prayer and then be like, okay, good, I get a little extra free time, I'll do it tomorrow. But now, I notice it in myself when I don't spend time praying each day. I feel like a crankier person. I feel like I have a harder time expressing myself, you know. So we can also look at the habits we do have in life and kind of follow those patterns when it comes to praying and trying to develop a prayer life. You do have to start somewhere, and you're working for that end goal that, God willing, one day you'll realize, yeah, I actually need to pray today because it's going to make me feel better. So a question that I often have, Father, is if I have a few things that I like to try to do when I pray, maybe it's reading scripture or praying a rosary, but I'm just not feeling them, how long do I or we just keep doing it and hoping that eventually it's going to be the good habit for us? Or when do we maybe pause that and try something different? Do you have any thoughts?
So again, I love the analogy or the metaphor of a relationship with God, right? And so imagine in a friendship or a dating relationship, a married relationship, a relationship of parents to kids or kids to parents. Every relationship goes through difficult times or a dry spot, right? Which doesn't mean that you love any less, and it doesn't mean that you should stop talking. And the same thing happens in our relationship with God. So sometimes when we are experiencing those times of difficulty, those times of frustration, it could be that you're not feeling the same way with the prayer methods that you've been using. It could be that you feel like every time you sit down, you're just incredibly distracted, so what's the point, right? If I'm just going to be distracted, I might as well go and do the thing that I'm distracted about rather than wasting God's time. It could be any one of those things, or you just don't feel that your heart's really in it, so what's the point of half-heartedly speaking to God? He deserves the whole of your heart. So just recognize that the relationship with God is like any other relationship. There are going to be dry times, but showing up and persevering are essential to any relationship, and it's no less the case when it's with God. Now, there may be a time where you're persevering and you're going through things, and the Lord might allow you to experience a period of dryness with a particular method of prayer, and the Lord is not saying stop praying. He might just say pause this type of prayer for a time. So maybe you're reading scripture and it's just not sitting with you the same way it did. Well, then maybe you still pray and you still sit and talk to God, but maybe you either try a new method or you just put the scriptures aside for a little bit, right? You still have that time with God. It's just the way that you're speaking to him has changed. Again, think of a relationship. You and your best friend may love going to the movies, and after a while it's like, hey, there are no more Marvel movies to go watch. Maybe we'll stop going to the movies and we'll try playing, frisbee golf or something, right? It's not that you've stopped spending time with your friend. It's just the way you're spending that time. It's changed because something about what you used to be doing was not giving life the way that it used to.
Right. Well,
So-
that makes a lot of sense. And also, it could also be that the way we approach that type of prayer has changed.
Mhm.
Like maybe it gets to the point where you're just reading through scripture mechanically.
Right.
Yeah, maybe it's a good time to pause that and try something different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, those are our thoughts
Yes,
on
hopefully that
starting a
helps.
prayer life.
Yeah.
And yeah, we keep you in our prayers. We miss you guys.
It's worth doing, so keep it up.
That's right.
God bless you.